Welcome to the Oswego Alumni Podcast. I'm your host, Dee Perkins. Every Marvel superhero has an origin story, whether you were bit by a radioactive spider or you were exposed to gamma radiation and now you just turn green and angry all the time. You would be surprised to hear how often all of our origin stories affect the rest of our lives. Today's guest started out working in a coffee shop when he was a teenager and is now the current CEO of the first campus-run coffee shop. I'm so happy to be talking to 2025's Bradley Zieman. Hey, Brad.
Hi, thank you. That was an amazing intro.
Yeah, you're like, wait a minute, what do I have to do with Spider-Man?
Oh, I love it. Thank you.
Thank you for squeezing us in between classes and board meetings and serving up lattes. I really appreciate it.
Of course, I'd love to be here.
Oh, great. Truth be told, we got to meet this past Saturday. I am part of the Oswego Alumni Board, and you guys did a great presentation. And then what happened is you spent a lot of time talking about coffee, and that board said, well, you're going to serve us coffee, right? And all of a sudden, you had, I don't know, about 30 people come over to the coffee shop when you were closed. One of the things that really impressed me was randomly, you got a bunch of staff there like that. How did that work?
Well, it was actually organized beforehand. We were going to have some new board members at the cafe. That way, the alumni board could meet some more of the board. But one thing that surprised me was you guys actually wanted to order off the menu and get the full experience. You know, we were expecting to be handing out samples the whole day, but eventually you guys started ordering, and I was like, whoa. So, we adapted very quickly, but yeah, it was great to serve you guys and show you guys a true rich and poor experience.
So, for alumni that don't know anything about Rich and Poor, can you tell us the Rich and Poor origin story?
Of course. So, Rich and Poor is a student-led, student-ran cafe here in the School of Business at SUNY Oswego, and well, it started out originally, Rich and Poor was called Wall Street Cafe, and it was ran by Auxiliary Services, but it wasn't making money. So eventually it closed down, and Irene Scruton, who's the head of MBA and is the assistant dean, she walked up the stairs one day and sees the cafe closed, and she dials up the head of Auxiliary Services and is like, "Why is this cafe closed? Why don't we have the students in the School of Business run the cafe, run the business?" And he was really fond of that idea, so uh, the first board was made, which was spring of 2022. Um, and the first board, they did all the organization, the branding of it, and eventually they opened April 11th, actually. So we're coming up on 3 years of operating.
And you
And
weren't a part of that original board, were you?
nope, this is my second semester here on the board. So I started out in fall of 24, and it looked vastly different to how it looks today.
Oh, what were some of the changes that you went through? So, I mean, obviously you weren't a part of that original board, but I think you
Mhm.
probably have the history. How did things change over the course of a couple of years?
Yeah, so originally the way the class was structured was the board was made up of individual departments that all collaborated to the cafe. For example, when I first started, I was on the operations team, and my only duty was to make sure the operations of the cafe was working well. Um, but we had a marketing team and a finance team, a procurement team, and there was no real hierarchy. Everybody was on the team. They were doing their own thing. They were, you know, doing their part. But at least for my semester, that's how it worked the previous semesters before. But for my semester, it didn't really work too well. People weren't being held accountable. We weren't following the same direction. We didn't really have a set goal for the semester. It was just, we came, we operated the cafe, and we left. And that's how it worked okay for the previous 3 semesters. But then when it came to us, it sort of came to a boiling point. And the professors had enough, and the board members had enough. So something really desperate needed to change. So I came in one day during the semester. It was a really rough board meeting. We couldn't get procurement right. We were always running out of stock. We were always, marketing campaigns weren't going out. Nothing was really working too well. And, we had a really smart team, really skillful and smart team, but there wasn't clear direction and anybody held anybody accountable. So eventually I was appointed to the head board member for like a week just because I was operations. I actually worked in the cafe for a long time and I had experience in the cafe. So they thought, all right, Bradley has experience in the cafe. Um, make him head board member and I'll just, hold people accountable, run the meetings. And eventually, I believe it was the next week, my my fellow board member on the operations team, she called me into a meeting and said, Bradley, we're gonna make you CEO. And I was like, wow, okay. So from that point on, my job or my immediate goal was to figure out what the teams look like. Um, so whether that was, creating who like VPs of each team and executives, because originally we were going to start out with chief executives for each department, but that was too narrow. So I chose two chief executives, chief in operations, and a chief financial, and then we just split the teams up to the two halves of the company. So that was the history of before I became CEO up until I became CEO.
So you became CEO in the fall of 2024, correct?
Yep, yep.
So you're the first CEO of Rich and Poor.
I am the first CEO of Rich and Poor.
That is amazing, and
Thank
it
you.
just makes me so excited. When we talked on Saturday, you struck me as the kind of guy who really loved the idea of like putting it together crazy drinks, like spending Saturday and going, okay, I really like the coconut syrup and the lavender syrup and a whole bunch of oat milk. Let's put this together and see what we get, right? Put it in the blender.
Yeah.
Let's all day long. Let's like, oh, so much caffeine.
Oh
And
yeah.
I also got to meet your finance guy. And
Hmm.
I think one of the things that you and maybe other people had to get used to was he was counting every pump, wasn't he?
Jackson. Jackson is an amazing, he's our chief financial officer, very financially driven. I mean, he works on spreadsheets for fun. And yeah, he's very, very to the point, very detail oriented. So every pump we use for experimenting or every drop of coffee we need to use for marketing efforts, he puts it in a spreadsheet and the next week he's like, "Oh, we spent 35 cents on a cup of coffee for an Instagram video." So he's very detail oriented and we really need somebody like that on the team and I'm really glad he's part of it.
Does it get counted? So 35 cents on an Instagram video, but I saw this weekend you used this great Instagram video of while I was there where you threw whipped cream on one of our alumni board members'
Yeah.
faces. Do you, as the CEO, respond to the finance guy and say, but this film got us, 800 views, and that also showed up on Monday when more people came in and ordered that drink?
Yeah. So one of my biggest initiatives coming in as CEO is putting more emphasis on the marketing end. So Lexi, she's our current chief marketing officer. She was the operations officer last semester. So I appointed her as chief marketing officer and I told her, go nuts, you know? I really want to see great social media engagement and connecting with the students here at Oswego. One of our core values is I'm blanking on it. Our core value is how we relate, our relatability to the students. So, how can we relate to these students? And that is by posting content that they can relate to or they could find entertaining. So it's definitely been a conversation with Jackson on how much we could spend on marketing. And truthfully, it's not too much. We might use drinks and videos or throw whipped cream at at some alumni, but it really builds our trust and our relatability to the student base.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I was really impressed with Lexi, and we're not saying that Bradley's taking advantage of Lexi's stuff. Lexi's presentation was so professional on Saturday, and she talked about how the social media from last year was kind of cutesy and fun,
Mhm.
but more directed towards girls. And what she saw in the and I don't know how you keep track of who is buying drinks, girls or boys, but she realized that the core audience for the cafe was mostly young men students. And they want a different kind of social media. And she literally turned the boat around and said, okay, this is the kind of humor we're looking for to reach more men.
Yeah. So last semester, we definitely did a lot of self-reflection, and we noticed that a lot of our customer base was mostly female oriented, along with our marketing initiatives. But um, Rich Hall at SUNY Oswego is 70% male. Students, staff, 70% of the students or staff in Rich Hall is male. And if we're serving to the 30%, the niche 30% female population here, last semester we pretty much hit that cap. So we're not going to see more sales unless we either bring in more female audience from outside or realistically try and target the student base that we have in Rich Hall. So, we've seen that last semester that we weren't really adhering or serving the male population. So it over long deliberation over the winter break, all right, how can we now attract the male customers to Rich and Poor, right? What do they want to see? What's going to get them in? Uh, and actually working side by side with AMA, American Marketing Association here at SUNY Oswego, they gave us a lot of insights and really directed us, advised us in the right direction. And it's not just the content that we need to focus on; it's also the items that we're pushing out that we're serving, right? Because if we're just adhering to male audience on Instagram, but we're still serving cutesy lattes and drinks. Men aren't really going to go after that. So it's really a big shift um, in our market, who we want to see, our target market. So yeah, we really tried to push for more male going content, but also products that we sell in the cafe as well.
That's an amazing marriage of marketing and operations that you don't see in student-run organizations. Again, I cannot say how excited I was to talk to you and bring this news to the alumni, because on the broadcasting communications side, we have WOCR, WMYO. I'm always going to mess up those colors, but
Yeah,
WMYO, WTOP. If you want WRVO, you have all of these opportunities to outside of the classroom try out some of the things that you're learning and put it in a real world scenario. So then when you graduate, you can say, hey, look at me. I already was, the hockey games. I already am a broadcaster of hockey games. And on the business side, I felt bad for you guys. You didn't have something that you could rally around. And now here is something that, I said this to you on Saturday, the friendships you're going to create from this experience will last you a lifetime. And I think
yeah,
the experience also, when you sit down across from a potential person who's going to hire you, you're going to have far more than the average just business graduate. Agreed?
yeah. 100%. One thing I always harp on, Oswego is great for giving hands-on experience. Whether, like you said, through WTOP, for broadcasting majors, they have their playground. I'm actually really close friends with the GM of WTOP, Kenny. But it's um, really good hands-on that Oswego serves. And for the longest time, or at least before I came here, Oswego didn't have anything for business. So I think a great initiative that they pushed was opening up Rich and Poor and opening that up to students. Because truthfully, students make 100% of the decisions here at Rich and Poor, right? We're the ones doing the marketing campaigns, hiring the employees, doing the financials, running the operations. And it really, helps, it gives us hands-on experience to running our own business, whether we want to be entrepreneurs or if we want to pursue one of these departments or one of these career paths later on in life.
And being at Rich and Poor also gives you credits. And how do you know whether you passed or failed the class?
It's a great question because one of the really unique things about Rich and Poor as a course, it's a 3 credit course. It's just like, or it on paper, on a transcript, it's just like any other class you're going to take in Oswego, but the experiences you get from it are definitely different. So grading wise, it's very simple. If the cafe makes money, you pass the class, you get an A. If the cafe loses money, you get an F. Uh,
Does
so
does this put you
at,
in a crazy position as we start getting down to the end of the year? You know, you graduate in May. I'm sure right
Mhm.
now you are very much looking at those books.
Actually, I'm pretty set on at least for me my graduation. Um, I mean, I'm my goal is to pass the class, but my some of my peers they really need this, and we're sitting pretty right now at this point in the semester, but um we could see some other reactions, especially last semester, making big changes just so that we pass the class. For example, the structure that we brought in that really turned things around pretty quickly. And other semesters, there were really dire situations where they would have lost money if they didn't make a big decision, such as expanding into catering. I know that was a big push for, I believe it was last spring, because they were really cutting it close and they really need to expand into something and make money.
To give the alumni an idea of how serious they take it, I did see they told us to follow the cafe on Instagram, and I highly recommend it. It's very entertaining. But one of the things they showed was cream cheese on a bagel, and I asked your finance guy how it looked like a lot of cream cheese. How much was it to cost the cafe to put that much cream cheese on a bagel? He knew the answer.
He did. He is, like I said, he's very detail oriented. He knows every cent that leaves this cafe, and it's really important we have somebody like that.
That is awesome, and it's important in every business. So back to origin stories, I talked about how you fell in love with coffee
Yeah.
when you were a teenager. So please tell your origin story.
Yeah. My sister actually started working at this cafe. It was called the Little Nook Cafe, back on Long Island, back on Long Island. And she was very close with the owner, and eventually the owner moved to a new location. And when she moved, I was like, hey, it'd be pretty cool if I worked there. Um, and at the time, I loved coffee as a drink, but I wouldn't say I was passionate about it. I just needed it as another job. But starting to work there, getting trained on making espresso drinks, making lattes, yeah, I fell in love. I love doing it. The art of making your own drink, the technicalities of frothing the latte milk just right, the difference between lattes, cappuccinos. It's a big science, and it's something I just dug into, and I gained a love and a passion for it. Unfortunately, the cafe closed down during COVID, so after that, it felt like there was a hole in my heart. And then my parents got me an espresso machine for Christmas one year, and every weekend we'd have family dinners and I'd be making espresso for my whole family. So it was a great passion of mine. And then coming to Oswego, I knew Rich and Poor. I heard it was student led, student ran. I didn't really know to what extent until summer before this semester or before this year, my senior year, I got an email saying, "Oh, join the Rich and Poor board." And I didn't really know what it entailed, but I signed up for an interview, and here I am today.
So when you decided what college you were going to, Rich and Poor didn't exist yet. How did you choose Oswego?
So I transferred. I'm a transfer student. I went to SUNY Farmingdale for 2 years, and I was just commuting. I I don't know. When I commuted to school, it was a different lifestyle, right? I still lived at home. I wasn't fully independent. Um, and going to school felt like a chore more than anything. I didn't make any friends there. There was no great culture. So eventually when I was looking for schools, the reason I came to Oswego, one of the big reasons because the lake. It's a beautiful lake. I could see in the picture behind you. I mean, but another thing was the culture. I visited other schools that were much bigger. And the reason I love Oswego is because it's small, it's tight knit. You can know a lot of people, but the culture is just amazing here. I mean, everybody's so friendly. It was a big culture shock to when I was commuting at school and everybody had their head down in class. It's a big difference.
So I can't imagine your average day. You have to go to class. One of the things that you said to me is being the CEO, if someone doesn't show up for a shift at the Rich and Poor, that you're doing the shift. So you've got classes, you've got being CEO. I know there's board meetings twice a week. Take me through just an average day, and let me hear what your life is like.
Yeah. So a typical day for me, I wake up, I have a little bit of a morning routine. I like to stretch and then make some coffee, eat some breakfast, and then I'm off to either my first class or work. So between classes, I'm running down to the cafe, helping out. Because between classes, that's when it's really busy. So I'm in there, I'm helping out, I'm helping the baristas make sure we're covering the rush pretty well. Then I'm right back up to my other class. Uh, um, then I have a nice gap between my day, and that's usually filled with either making meeting agendas or meeting with people or fitting in, coming on a podcast. It's the whole nine yards. Um, Sometimes, there's sudden things, problems either in the cafe or related to the cafe. For example, we didn't get any milks in our last orders, so we had to run and get some milks. I actually had one of the board members go and do that today, but just to make sure we're operational. Um, or, sometimes I wake up from a phone call at 8 a.m. saying, hey, so-and-so is not coming in today. Is there any chance you could run down to the cafe and do it? So grudgingly, I get up, but I still come here and I work. Um, so throughout the rest of my day, it's just filled with meetings and trying to fit in doing homework between that. And then when it comes to board meetings, that takes up a lot of time. Before the board meeting, I'm planning it. During the board meeting, I'm running it. I'm making sure it's running smoothly. We're trying to achieve the goals that I set for the board meeting. And then after the board meeting, it's usually the whole team goes up to the cafe. We're working in the cafe, or we're just hanging out around the cafe. Um, and on board meetings or on Thursdays, us and all the board, we all hang out afterwards. So we're all very tight-knit group. We love hanging out with each other. And yeah, that's pretty much the majority of my days is pretty busy, and 90% of that has to do with the cafe.
Spending time on campus, the cafe is pretty much across the street from Lonis Moreland, and I know those are closed, and you may not be familiar with them. I was a Moreland girl. I bet
Oh
you
yeah.
wish those dorms were open because it's just right across the street from the cafe.
Actually, um, I live off campus now, but I'm closer now to Rich Hall than when I lived on campus because I lived all the way West Campus, Onondaga, and that was like a mile walk to Rich, which I don't mind the walk. I like walking, but now it's so much easier to throw my backpack on and I'm in Rich within 5 minutes.
Yeah, you like walking in April, but I don't know about
Yeah,
yeah, I don't know about
it's
that in February.
especially this past winter. It's been, I mean, the amount of times I've wiped out walking to Rich. It's just, phew.
So I like to surprise my guests with the fact that you don't think I know about you.
Okay,
And here we go.
all
Uh,
right,
here we go. I see you're a member of the Oswego Fit 1000 Club.
yeah.
Here's your chance to brag a little,
Oh,
Brad. Brag
thank
a
you.
little. Tell everybody what that means.
So the 1,000 pound club it's a pretty, I guess, worldwide thing for powerlifters. So it's the combined weight of a bench press, squat, and deadlift. And I'm a pretty fit person myself. So I've been powerlifting. I started powerlifting in 10th grade. I had a powerlifting coach that was given to me when I did wrestling in high school. And I've been working out consistently since 2021. So, being fit, it's a big part of my personality. It's something I really love doing. Probably on par with coffee. I love coffee and fitness just about the same. So it's really great you bring that up. And when I came to Oswego, I saw when I was working out at the gym, oh, the 1,000 pound club. What is this? What is this? And it's always something I've always wanted to do at Oswego, and I never had to the previous semesters I was here. And this semester I came here and I was like, you know what? Let me start training for it. let me start doing the lifts, running through the motions. And actually the week before spring break, that was about almost a month ago, I signed up for it and it took you in and you have to do all the lifts in 1 hour, which is that's the most difficult part because I take my time, especially when I'm lifting. When I'm in the gym, I'm listen head bobbing to music. It takes me maybe an hour to just do one of the lifts, and now I gotta fit all that into 1 hour for three lifts. It That was the most difficult part. I did run pretty close. I think I mean, they gave me the 10-minute warning right before my last set. But I could only really squeeze in one set of my last workout, which was a deadlift. But I hit my personal goal of 1100. So my total was 1115, and I'm very proud to be a part of that.
So what's the heaviest amount that you lifted at once?
So that would be my deadlift. I deadlifted 455, which was my last lift of the challenge, but I actually lifted that the week before. But it went up a little easier the week before. But when I actually did it for the 1,000 pound club, yeah, I that was a struggle.
So not only classes, CEO, filling in at the cafe, now you're lifting this ridiculous, oh my God, amount of weight. You're a pretty busy guy. I like
I
I like the way you're making that a priority though. I really love that.
Thank you. Lifting for me it's like I treat it as my free time. I'm always working on the cafe. I love working for the cafe, working on the cafe, but there's a lot of stresses that come with that. And at night, I'm done with all my work. I go to the gym and it's just I see all my friends there. It's so freeing, and I put all my stress and anger out into the weight.
So speaking of your friends, I'm going to put you a little bit on the spot here.
Okay.
They asked us to talk about the first TEDx event on campus, and it's going to be next Friday, April 11th. And I know you're not directly involved, but some of your friends are, and they'll appreciate the shout out. So tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah. So TEDx is, I mean, obviously we all know the TEDx talks that happen. I mean, I'm a big fan of watching them. So bringing it into SUNY Oswego is a huge feat. Actually, Eason, who is directing the TEDx, he was on the first board for Rich and Poor, and he was telling me he was a senior for his bachelor's at the time. He was like, the last thing I want to do is open Rich and Poor. That's the last thing you want to do as his before he leaves. And now he's for his master's, and now just before he graduates for his master's, he's doing TEDx, which was a huge dream for him to do, and I'm really proud to see it come to fruition. But it is next Friday. There is a lot of hype behind it. I'm so excited. We're having, I believe there's five or six guest speakers. It's a very well put together event. I mean, the stage looks amazing. Everything, the whole setup looks amazing. It's so professionally done, and I'm so proud to be in Oswego when this is happening. I mean, this is a great thing for the school. And Richaport we're actually doing a collab with TEDx. We just came out yesterday with our Red X lemonade. It's a strawberry raspberry lemonade with a cherry on top. Come down to Richport if you want to try it. It's an amazing drink. We worked closely with the TEDx team. We actually have some of the TEDx team. Marcelo, who's on the marketing team, he's a coach for TEDx. So we do have a lot of ties. And Richport is actually catering the coffee services for the event.
Where is it located? Where will it be
It's
held?
It'll be held Sheldon Ballroom. So Sheldon Ballroom, I've already seen the whole setup. The stage looks amazing. It is a very formal event, and I'm really excited to be there and to see it all happen.
So will you guys have a table there, or do you expect people to go to Rich Hall, get their drink, and then go over?
We will have a table there. We're gonna be serving the Red X lemonade. That'll definitely be there, as well as some coffee services and teas.
So we are about a month and a half, right? A month and a couple of days, couple weeks away from graduation. Here's your chance, Brad.
Uh,
I mean, the first
yeah.
question is, what do you want to do after graduation? But I also feel like you're such a great guy. Why should somebody hire you?
Well, honestly, one of the biggest goals I have for myself is to open my own business. Whether that's right after I graduate or further down the line, um, proven to myself, being CEO of Rich and Poor really proves to myself I have the skill set to do it. I might not have all the knowledge, but I definitely have the capabilities to learn it. Um, I'm a very hardworking, young man, especially for things that I'm passionate for. I mean, Rich and Poor, I'm extremely passionate for, and it's my self-motivation that really drives me to get up every morning, to put in the work, to get it done, to deal with everything I'm dealing with. I mean, it's something I never thought I'd be doing or had the capabilities to do it until I'm doing it now.
What will your degree be?
I'm bachelor's in business administration.
Nice. So that
Yeah,
leaves it wide open for anyone
it
looking for
does.
an energetic young man.
I'm aiming for more. I believe I have a very strong marketing mind. I think marketing, out of all the branches of a business, I think marketing I have the strongest understanding of, and the keen eye for who wants what for designing, as well as the analytics side of it as well, and just understanding, I can look at a business, understand their brand, understand who they're targeting, and also understand what the consumer wants on the other end, and if the business is meeting it.
And we love your friends, so we're also going to give them a shout out. Who else on your team is graduating?
Oh wow, a lot. Shout out to a lot of the original board. So Juliana, she runs the HR. She's a great. This is her second semester on the board. She's really helpful with the whole operations of the cafe. She definitely, not only is she the head of HR, she's dealing with all the employees, but she helps outside of that. I mean, she's always here to do the work, and to even step outside of what she needs to do just to help out. Nina, she's the current chief operations officer. Very smart, very operationally minded. She was actually the head of HR last semester, and then she visited because she was virtual at the time. She visited, and I really got a sense of um, how operationally minded she is. I mean, first time she ever saw the cafe in person because she was virtual for the whole time. She comes in, she's ripping it apart. She's like, "Oh, they should be here. It'd be easier if the employees did this first and then that. Why don't we have this in the cafe?" Very smart on that end. And then a lot of our other board members, can't name all of them off the top of my head that are graduating. Um, yeah, I th those are the two notable, and Henry DeVoe as well. He's the VP of operations, who manages the inventory and is very strong. He actually runs his own business back in Massachusetts. He runs his own food cart. It's impressive the skill set he brings here, but also he's told me the skill set he's bringing home now. Now that he has the experience here.
If anyone wants to contact you, what's the best way to find you?
My email, or my LinkedIn. My email, bradzieman@gmail.com, or my LinkedIn. You can look up Bradley Zieman. I should be the first one to pop up, hopefully. But either one of those two, that's the easiest way to find me.
And we'll put that in the show notes. On the flip side, any way that you can think of that alumni who want to get involved in Rich and Poor can get involved.
Yeah. You could definitely have a conversation with our faculty advisor. So we have two faculty advisors. One is Irene Scruton. She is the assistant dean and the head of the MBA department. She's a big resource for Rich and Poor and definitely a contact point for alumni, as well as Greg Arcuri, who is a professor here at Oswego, and he's a little more in tune with our day-to-day operations.
Awesome. Thank you so much for spending the time. Is there anything I forgot?
Not off the top of my head. If anybody wants to come check out Rich and Poor, our Instagram is rich.n.poor, as well as you can come see us in Rich Hall at SUNY Oswego.
Awesome. Thank you, Brad. It was great talking to you.
It's great talking to you. Thank you so much for having me.
And if you have any ideas on guests, you can find us on Facebook, on LinkedIn, or you can email us at alumni@oswego.edu. We're always looking for ideas from our over 95,000 alumni. I'm Dee Perkins with the Oswego Alumni Podcast.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Oswego Alumni Podcast. Please note that the views and opinions shared by our guests are their own and may not reflect those of the Oswego Alumni Association, SUNY Oswego, or its representatives. For guest suggestion, email us at alumni@oswego.edu.